What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Priscilla. I'm a Nigerian women's wear designer based in London. In this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the pattern for a romper which has a two-piece collar attached around the neck. I asked you guys on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, is at Priscilla Okpan or Kim Dave Designs. I have two accounts and I'll leave the link somewhere on the screen so you can go check me out. But I asked you guys over there on my Insta story what you would like me to film, and I gave up three sort of options, and two options had a very close tie, and one of you came up with the idea of actually fixing the two-piece collar around the neck of the romper. So it's like killing two birds with one stone. Thank you so much for the suggestion. So without further ado and enough of my rambling, let's get straight into this video. I'm going to be using the following tools and materials to create this romper slash play suit design. On the left hand side, I have laid down all of my scissors, my pen, tracing wheel, measuring tape, some sellotape, as well as my set square and pattern master. I'm also going to be using my front and back basic bodice block because I'll be needing a top half for the romper, and I'm going to be using my trouser pattern for the bottom half. All the tutorials are going to be linked down below, so if you haven't seen them already, please go check them out. I also got myself some pattern paper, a long ruler, and I'm going to be using this fabric to make the romper. I think the making is going to be in a separate video because I think it's going to be too long if it's just all in one. I'll be needing about 2 meters for that fabric, some elastic, some button, as well as some interfacing to fuse the collar and the placket of the romper. For this design, you need to decide on the following: how long you want the top to be and how long you want the bottom to be. So you need to take down some measurements if you've already done your bodice block and your trouser block, just to ensure that the design fits your body perfectly. So the first thing we're going to be doing is to make the front top pattern, and I'm just going in here to trace around my front basic bodice, around the neck, around the shoulders, around my armhole, and down the side. But we're going to be changing up the silhouette because the general feel of the pattern is quite boxy, but it's going to be cinched in with the elastic when it's time to make it. So I'm just going in with my pattern master to connect my dash lines, drawing in my center front, drawing in my neckline, which I'm going to be keeping high because I want the collar to be a bit more tight around my neck. For the top, it's about 43 centimeters long because I want it to be, you know, high-waisted when the shorts come in. I'm just going in here to drawing my hem, drawing in my sides, and as you can see, the side is wide and straight. We're not going to be using any darts here. So for the center front, we're going to be extending it by 6 centimeters because we want to create a placket. So a placket is where your button and your buttonholes would normally sit, and the method here I'm doing is I'm just extending it by 6 centimeters, adding 1 centimeter seam allowance, and dividing that 6 centimeters extension into 2, because what you have to do is you have to fold this once and then stitch it up together to make the placket that would overlap on the front of the top of this romper. So the middle line there is a fold line, and it's going to be folded back into the sort of left or the right hand side of the top of this romper. So we're also going to be making the shoulder narrower. I'm going to be reducing it to about 9 centimeters because I want it to not hang off the shoulder of my body, and I'm going to connect that new 9 cm mark to the side. So I'm just going in here to add my notch, add my seam allowance, and this is what it should look like. This is one way to create a placket, which is when you just extend the center front and then you fold it back in to create an extended bit where your buttons and your buttonholes can sit. You can also decide to cut this strip as a separate piece of material and then join it back to the center front of your shirt or the top of your romper. So I'm just going in here to cut out my front pattern for the top of the romper. I decided to do the top separate from the bottom because I wasn't really sure how I was going to connect the placket to the bottom of the shorts. So I'm repeating the same thing for the back. I'm tracing around my center back, my sides, my neckline, as well as my shoulder before going in to make some changes so the front can actually fit the back. So I'm just going in here to draw a straight line for my center back. Center back is going to be cut in a fold because I don't want to seam, and it's going to be the same length as the front because you want the sides of the front and the back to match. So I'm just going in here to draw the hemline and then go into shortening the shoulder to 9 centimeters like we did for the front, and then connect that to the side seam. So I'm just going in here to add my back armhole notch and then drawing the side of the back. So the side is straight because it doesn't really matter because of the elastic that we're going to be adding around the waistline of the bottom. So I've just gone in here and I've added my 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around. You just need to cut one piece for this back. It's cut on a fold and then it's attached to the front. So this is what the top patterns look like. The front, which is the one closer to the bottom of the screen, and then the back, which is on top of, towards the top of the screen, and it looks like this. Is fairly simple, really straightforward, and it's an easy way to make. You can almost use this pattern here to make a shirt if you combine it with the two-piece pattern tutorial that I've already done in a separate video. Once you do the collar, you do the top that we just did, you already have a sort of sleeveless shirt that you can even make in your free time. So this is what the two-piece collar looks like. I've already gone ahead and I've done this off camera because I have a separate tutorial showing you how to make a two-piece collar, which normally appears on shirts, on dresses, and that 3cm extension is called the button stand, which would sit over the top of the placket that sits on the center front of the shirt. This will make complete sense when I put together the pieces in the sewing tutorial, which is coming up next. Please bear with me, it's going to be coming up soon. You need to cut 2 pieces on a fold for the collar stand as well as the main collar piece itself. So once all of these are sort of settled and done, it's time to move to the bottom pattern pieces. Starting out with the front, I'm just going in here to trace around the front sort of crouch curve like so, trace around the waist, mark my sides up to a certain point because the bottom is going to be straight along the outer leg, but we still maintain a slanted line on the inner leg of the bottom of this romper. So I'm just going in here to join my dash lines using my pattern master and a marker pen so you can see clearly what I'm doing. And the bottom is going to be 43 centimeters long. You can decide to make yours shorter, but I just thought it would be no use making it too short because I won't be able to wear it for that long. So I want to ensure that my top and my bottoms match, and as you can see, the top front is shorter by 1 centimeter, and I'm going to be correcting that later on in this video, but I just wanted to double check that before going ahead to continue with this video. So I'm just going in here to draw in my straight outer leg line, connect that to my waist, and draw in the slant inner leg line that you can see here. And this slant line is going to change direction that the hem of this bottom pattern would have. So once I've drawn in this line here, I'm going to write in any necessary annotations I need. As a front shot, you need to cut 2, draw in my grain line like so, and then the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be marking 4 centimeters down twice. So 4 centimeters once, 4 centimeters second time, and 5 centimeters the third time. So I'm just going in here to draw in the first 2 4cm marks like this. This will make complete sense very soon, I promise. And once you've drawn in those 3 lines, I'm going to fold the first line inside like this, because what we want to create is, you know, that turn up detail that trousers and shirts usually have. You want to ensure that when it's turned up, the side of the pattern or the side of the short aligns in such a way that it works. So I folded it up like this, and I'm going in with my tracing wheel to mark the direction that the line should go, and it normally should create a triangle that looks like this, because if you cut it straight and you try to fold it back, the sides won't match. So once you fold it back up like this, you see that especially on the inner leg, the outer leg doesn't matter because the line is straight, but because the inner leg is like a slanted line, you want to ensure that you get the direction of the lines right. So I folded in a second time, and I'm going to go back with my tracing wheel, just draw over again like so, and I'm going to fold outwards and then connect the holes that we've made with the tracing wheel, and this should go outwards like this. So when you cut out this piece in your fabric and when you stitch it up together and you fold it back in, you would see that the turn up detail would look so nice, so neat, and would not be tight on the inside of the leg. So the next thing I'm doing in here is to create a channel for my elastic. The channel is 3 centimeters wide and stops 4 centimeters before the center front, because I want the center front of the bottom to be nice and flat when I have it on. So once I've drawn that out, it's time to cut out my pattern. I just drew in the seam allowance line inside of the lines that we made because the original trouser pattern already had a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Now moving on to the corrections for the top. Like I mentioned earlier on, we're going to extend the top by 1 centimeter because we want the top and the bottom to match along the waistline, so it just makes everybody's life a whole lot easier. But because we're going to be extending it by that much, we need to adjust the bottom of the arm curve, and whatever you do to the front you need to do to the back. So as you can see here, I have made the necessary connections, I have made the necessary corrections, and I'm going to go in and cut out the extra paper that is there. So this is what the front bottom or short piece for the romper looks like. It's connected around the waist like so. Another way you could do this is to just cut one pattern piece that has the top and the bottom, but I didn't just want to create something that I wasn't sure about. I'd rather do something that I sort of have an idea of how it would work than to create something that would be confusing for everybody. So the placket would fold in like this for the front. You fold it in one time and you fold it in again like this, that 1 centimeter seam allowance along the edge. So by the time you fold it inwards along the fold line, you stitch it along the edge of that 1 centimeter seam allowance. You have a nice and smooth placket along the front of the romper, and it wraps across into the waist of the bottom. So this is what we're going to be doing for the front, and then we're going to move ahead to make the back bottom pattern. So for the back, essentially just going to repeat the same thing we did for the front. We're going to trace around the waist, trace around the curved crouch line that the back has, which is usually longer than the front to accommodate the curve of your bum and your hips. We're going to indicate where the hip is because you want to ensure that the bottom is as wide as your hip, because this thing is not going to have a zip, it's just going to have an elastic. But you want to be sure that when you put it on from the bottom, it rides smoothly over your hips and your butt, and it can make its way all the way to your waist and hopefully have it on nicely. So I'm just going in here to grab my front, and I'm going to ensure that the front is as wide as the back in terms of the outer leg line. So I'm just using that as a guide, drawing in the straight line that the front outer leg had, just marking all of those 4 cm points that we made on the outside as well as on the inside. For the inside, I moved it outwards by 1 centimeter because the back of the bottom is usually wider than the front. I'm going to go ahead and connect all of my dashed lines, add my 1 centimeter seam allowance, and cut out the back bottom pattern for this romper. So this is what it should look like right at this point. I'm just adding any necessary annotations. You normally would need to cut 2 to go on the left and on the right hand side to make a complete back. I'm just writing the year it was made, the size, and I am making sure that the back of the top matches the back of the bottom, because there's nothing worse than finishing the pattern and realizing you make a great mistake that can't be fixed when it's time to sew your garments. So I'm just going in here to cut out my back bottom piece, and once that is cut out, the pattern for this romper is complete. These are all the patterns finished and done. I'm going to be linking all of the mentioned tutorials in the description box, so if you haven't seen them already, you can go check them out, and a lot of the steps would be understandable to you. I hope you guys enjoyed watching all the same. I do plan on sewing this pattern, so stay tuned for that. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching it. Comment all of your thoughts and ideas and suggestions down below, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.